Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Classic Gaming Brothers. I'm Seth.
And I'm Zach.
And we are, in fact, brothers, and I play games.
Some of them are classic, yeah.
Some of them are classic. Perhaps we are classy gaming brothers sometimes.
Ooh.
The tagline is we play games and our brothers, or two brothers making a podcast.
That's right. That is what we are doing.
That's what we're doing. We are recording audio for your ears because we want to.
All right. So I guess we're going to get, as a quick reminder for anyone who hasn't listened to the show, we split up our episodes into a few different segments. We start off by just discussing games we've recently been playing. Then we'll go into our topic for the podcast, and then we finish it up with a buy, wait, pass, where we recommend a game, or we say that we're not going to buy a game that is coming out in the future.
Yeah. Or we can tell you to wait on it.
Or we'll tell you, we'll tell you to wait on it.
Buy it immediately, wait on it, or pass. We'll talk more about that when we get there, right?
Exactly. So Seth, what have you been playing lately?
So I have recently been playing Outer Worlds, which is a game that was developed by Obsidian, which Obsidian, for anyone who knows me personally, would know that Obsidian is I would say my favorite development house. They've put together Pillars of Eternity, Deadfire. They were also the development house that put together Fallout New Vegas. They also were the development house who were originally a development house called Black Isle Studios.
Right. And
many of the people who were in Black Isle, who created such things such as Baldur's Gate 2 and Baldur's Gate for the PC, those people, when Black Isle went defunct, they went and formed their own development studio, and that development studio is Obsidian. I've met a few people from the company. I really enjoy their stuff. So they put together Outer Worlds. Outer Worlds is essentially them making a Fallout game without having the Fallout property. It's a fun space game where you travel around the the star systems and get fun weapons, and it's got a very humorous, almost sardonic type of humor. It's very it's just kind of like people, they take themselves seriously, but it's hilarious to hear them. It's a world that's populated by very capitalistic type of companies, and essentially it would be like if McDonald's and Pepsi went and colonized space, and what would happen?
Terrifying.
And so there's a company called Spacer Choice. And they've generally, and according to their tagline, it's not the best choice, it's Spacer's choice. And they have everyone you meet who works for Spacer's Choice has to put in the conversation somewhere, it's not the best choice, it's Spacer's Choice, regardless of who they are. And it's same with all the other companies. It's just a great game. They've got a really unique fighting combat system. It's very similar to the Fallout games, and except instead of pausing the game, allowing to select stuff, it's kind of like slows time down. Very cool game. Recommend it highly. It's available on the Microsoft Store, where you can in fact pay for it through. I actually paid for a Game Pass for a deal for $1, and I've been playing the game for $1.
Oh, cool. Nice. Yeah, that's one that I've been wanting to pick up or play at some point. definitely from the trailers and some of the gameplay I've seen people play, seems to be kind of like right in the niche of like that kind of RPG game, the Fallout, Elder Scroll style game, without being a mess that Fallout 4 was. So
it is a shorter game. Runtime's about 20 to 30 hours,
Oh,
and
okay.
it's not trying to sell itself to be a longer game.
Yeah.
It's also a single player game. Also is doesn't have any DLC or anything. It's just what it is. It is what it is. It's Outer Worlds.
Nice. Well, so you would recommend it, I'd imagine?
I would recommend it. It's definitely a game that I would recommend other people playing it.
Cool. Well, I've been playing. I played last night actually. Sonic the Hedgehog.
Recently.
Yes, very recently. I was at a. So a little context. I was at a bar, with some of my friends for one of my friends' birthdays, and this bar is in Haverhill, Mass. It's called the Gamepad. So if anyone from the Gamepad is listening, I'm expecting.
A like and a follow.
A like and a follow. That's right. The Gamepad is basically, it's kind of like a barcade sort of situation. They don't really have old arcade games or pinball machines like some of the barcades that I've been to, but they do have a lot of televisions that have PlayStation 4s, Switches, Xbox Ones, and then they have a couple of classic video game systems, thanks to the HD remake systems, the mini consoles. So they had the SNES Mini, the NES Mini, the PlayStation Classic, and the new Genesis or Sega Genesis Mini. So I sat on the Genesis Mini, and I played through all of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 at a party.
Oh.
I should have been socializing, but instead I played through all of Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which I realize is a game that I could, if I didn't have to take a break to go do stuff and socialize with people, I probably could have beaten in about 30 minutes or less. So it definitely is not a game that has longevity to it, but it's it's still a game that holds up.
You were able to beat Sonic 2 in 30 minutes?
Give or take. Again, it was probably a little longer than that because I had to take a break to eat, and then we did a group photo. But yeah, nonstop. It would have been probably about 30 minutes.
That's pretty impressive. You've been practicing your. You should be a speedrunner for Sonic.
Yeah, no, I mean but someday I should try to speedrun it, see how fast I can do it. I did not 100% it. I did not collect all 7 Chaos Emeralds. That probably would have put me out another 15 or so minutes. But
yes,
but I did get through the main storyline, if you would.
Yes, did the egg at the end to jump up into it.
Yeah, Dr. Eggman jumping up and down.
Do you have any strategies in how you go about that?
My major strategy in playing Sonic 2 is collecting what are they called? Continues and 1-ups pretty much up until the very last boss. So for anyone who hasn't played Sonic 2, you're rewarded for completing levels quickly or with enough rings that you're traditionally given a continue, which will help you if you get a game over. And then if you get 100 rings in a zone, you'll get a 1-up, and there's hidden secrets where you can get more 1-ups and such, so extra lives. And again, if you've never played Sonic 2 or the original Sonic 1, the last boss is you going against a fairly difficult boss that is usually takes more hits than the stage bosses, and you also don't have any rings to buffer their attacks, so it's a one hit you die. So you'll go through lives quickly at the end. So pretty much the majority of your time will probably be fighting the last boss and getting continues. So yeah, if you jump into Sonic 2, I recommend focusing on continues and 1-ups to just get to the end boss and taking care of it.
Yeah, it's, the main villain in the Sonic series is Dr. Robotnik, who will be played by Jim Carrey in the coming Sonic game
That's
movie.
Right. Fun fact about Dr. Robotnik: in one of the game's manuals, it describes him as "quote unquote" a feminist. So,
oh.
Yeah. So he's nicer than some politicians, apparently.
He's nicer than Sonic.
I guess so. Sonic's not a feminist.
No, but we should digress. Today's episode, we're gonna talk about the MECC company. and I'm sorry if I'm cutting you off, Zach. If you want to talk more about Sonic 2.
No worries.
Do you recommend people play it?
Oh yeah, yes, I recommend you play Sonic 2. It's a good Sonic.
With the amount of love that Zachary loves Sonic, this will not be the beginning. This is just the beginning of the end of Sonic.
Right? Yeah. This is.
I'm sure we will be talking about all of the Sonics at one point in time.
I could dedicate an entire hour to talking about Sonic. So.
Anyway, but today we're going to talk about MECC.
Yes.
MECC actually stands for, MECC is the game that created Oregon Trail, the company that created Oregon Trail, and it stands for Minnesota Educational Computing Consortium, which you might not have known that.
Yeah, kind of a cool little history. They were actually founded by the Minnesota legislature in 1973 as an act of legislation, in order to provide computer education to companies and schools across the state of Minnesota.
And in fact, their essentially their landmark game was to teach children about the realities of the 19th century pioneer life on the Oregon Trail.
Yes.
Which hopefully everyone who's listening to this podcast has played the Oregon Trail game or some iteration of the Oregon Trail game. There's been many of the iterations at one point in time in their life, perhaps because of school. It may have been the best thing that you've done in school.
And for very quick history on the Oregon Trail as a game, it was originally created by a guy named Don Rouswich of Carleton College in Northfield, Minnesota. He was teaching an 8th grade history class and wanted kind of a way to teach his students a little more interactively. So him and a couple of people, along with the permission of the school district, purchased an HP 2100 mini computer, which was a big old mainframe, and they programmed the game using a teleprinter. And for people who don't know computer history, a teleprinter it looks like a typewriter. It shoots out paper as opposed to having a screen. So the whole game was played on that type of format initially. And then in 73 or 74, the Minnesota Educational Computing Consortium hired Rouswich, and they brought the system onto more modern systems. Right.
It's an excellent game. I played it in school. I'm sure Zach played it in a version of it in school, perhaps a different version than I played.
Yeah. I think I played Oregon Trail 2, which is more of a remaster of the first game. But I think
it also brings a significant amount of graphics in beyond the first one.
Yeah.
Does it bring in hunt? Well, you can hunt and stuff. Well, you can hunt in the first one, right?
Yeah, you can hunt in the first one. It's different hunting in the second one. It's kind of like
it's like scopes and stuff like that.
Pseudo first person of sorts, but
pseudo
Suede. Pseudo first person. It's like Leisure Suit Larry. He wears Suede.
Oh, that could be an entire episode by itself. Leisure Suit Larry. Pseudo first person, yes. So if you haven't played the Oregon Trail, we're going to assume that you have. We're going to keep what the objective of the game was. You picked kind of a role in the beginning of the game, a farmer or some. You could be a farmer, a carpenter, or what have you, and then you plotted your course across the United States to go to the territory of Oregon, and you brought your whole family, and you try to keep them alive because the hardships of the 19th century pioneer life was tough, and people generally died of cholera or dysentery.
Mauled by bears, starvation. This wasn't a game where you can turn into the Donner Party. If you starved, you died. It was, a fairly harrowing game to play as a child, learning the realities of death.
And there was no real true saving in the game, at least in the earlier versions. So whenever they died, that's it. Your family didn't make it to Oregon.
Yeah,
start the game over.
I think even the version I played, which was again Oregon Trail 2, I think the only saving you could do was if you didn't die. So if you don't die, you can
Yes.
like leave the game and then come back to the point you were in.
Yes.
But if you died, it would reset. It was like
Yes.
a roguelike.
Yeah, you can save the game to go to dinner, but if you die, you die.
Yeah.
It was a fun game. I did have a strategy recently. You could play it online in a web-based fashion, and I decided that I wanted to live out my childhood and booted it up and see how fast I could beat it was what my objective was. So I went in and I became the banker. Why? Because they give you the most money, and I needed money to be able to accomplish my strategy. And my strategy was to buy 50 oxen, which is the maximum amount of oxen that you could have, and also to buy 400 pounds of food, because that was the amount of food that I needed to make myself to Oregon without stopping to hunt or trade or do anything except drive. So my objective was to keep everybody as healthy as I could by buying every necessity that they needed, and also to drive my oxen as hard as I could. So I put the speed mode on super fast, which is the pushing the oxen to the a maximum capacity, which led to many oxen dying. Like many Bothans died for the Star Wars plans. Many oxen dies to take my family to Oregon. And when I stopped at different towns, I would buy more oxen. I was able to successfully get to Oregon, I think, in 2 months, which was a pretty speedy time to beat the game in. A great game. It's really an iconic game for its time, and it still holds up. It is strategized as it is classified as a strategy game.
Yeah, and very much in line with what might be described as edutainment, in terms of as a game, where the primary factor is to teach you something, but it also is a game. You are playing something. It kind of along the lines of some of the like Mario teaches typing or something like that, but this was just a bit more interactive than that.
Yeah, or the math games like
Math Blasters or
Reader Rabbit. Very similar type of game, just a little more refined versus less educational, being shoved in your face.
Yeah,
it was taught to you through a fun interactive experience.
Yeah, I mean, I remember playing Oregon Trail 2 at my school, and for part of me, it almost didn't. I mean, it was educational, but part of me almost felt like I was like, oh, this isn't educational. I'm not learning anything. And when I think back on it, I learned a bunch of stuff about the Oregon Trail thanks to Oregon Trail 2.
Yeah.
I learned. I learned, for example, that you can't spend all of your money on bullets and none of your money on blankets.
I think the true lesson that everyone who's ever played Oregon Trail can take away is that it was tough.
It was tough.
It was undeniably a tough thing that people had to go through to get across the United States to settle across the nation. MECC had published a number of other games and was around for quite some time. Some other games that they published that maybe you may not have heard of, that me and Zachary most certainly have heard of, were games such as the Amazon Trail and the Yukon Trail. I don't know, which one are we more excited to talk about? I'm assuming the Yukon one.
I think the one I have the most memories of is Yukon Trail. I remember we had Amazon Trail, but I don't remember ever playing Amazon Trail.
I loved Amazon because of its strangeness.
Is Amazon Trail the one that has the talking jaguar?
Yes, it did have a talking jaguar, and also you ran into people of history at different spots. So you ran into Ford while he's trying to get plastic for his tires or something. He's in the Amazon, so Ford from Ford Cars was in the Amazon trying to get rubber from the Amazon to make tires for the Model T. And in the Amazon Trail, so we'll talk about the Amazon Trail before we get to the Yukon Trail.
Yeah.
In the Amazon Trail, you take a canoe down the Amazon, and you go into progressively more modern times, and you're lost in this time, and it's very kind of strange. It's not traditional like the Oregon Trail or the Yukon Trail. It kind of puts you in this weird time vortex, and but you get to directly interact with people in history, and one of the people that I remember really interacting with was Henry Ford of Ford Motor Cars, and how he needed rubber for his tree. And there's people, and there's like FMV type of full motion video type of interactions. It's quite a game, and there is even like a challenging part of navigating your canoe down certain rapids and stuff, where there's like almost like a game aspect versus just trying to solve problems for these people from time, where you have to find objects for them.
Right. Almost like another Mario game, actually. It was Mario's Time Machine, which was a edutainment game, but you had to go back in time to meet historical figures and give them objects that are missing, apparently. So so it get kind of a same line there. Though apparently, from what I'm reading now about Amazon Trail, that Claude Levi-Strauss is one of the characters in it, who's an anthropologist and only died in 2009. So he was a living anthropologist when that game came out.
I think the game that I played was not the Amazon Trail 1, but was actually I actually played Amazon Trail 2, which is one that we owned,
right?
Which was released in '96. And according to the Wikipedia, you start in a mysterious incident at the Museum of Ancient Art, which then ends up with you ending up in the Amazon, where you're then sent to find and cure a disease. And trying to reach the city of Villacambamba. I probably butchered that name, but that's that. It is it's a fun you get to you fish, you have resources, and you fish, and then you meet people historically throughout the world, and it's an interesting it's a very interesting game. And and
then of course there's another game that we owned, was Yukon Trail.
Yes.
So Yukon Trail was along the similar lines of Oregon Trail, less of a similar line than Amazon Trail, where like Oregon Trail and Yukon Trail are about two actual things that happened, which was the expansion during the time where people were going out on the Oregon Trail, and then Yukon Trail is the Klondike Gold Rush, where Amazon Trail was just you going down the river. So it wasn't really like a major event of everyone doing it. But in the Yukon Trail, you play as a guy or girl, whoever you choose to play as, who travels to Alaska to look for gold, and you have to team up with some interesting people along the way. I think you can also just try to go alone.
Yes, you can. Yep.
I do know that there is one character, and this was from watching a video of someone playing it recently, but there's one character who's a banker, and he pretty much bankrolls your entire trip.
Yes, but I actually took the banker along. I've gone through with, there was a banker, there was like an outdoorsy type person, there was a person who was originally like native to the land. So the banker gave you horrible advice the entire time. So there's a part where you go to the boat to leave Seattle to travel north into Alaska, and there's a guy selling bicycles, and the banker says, absolutely, let's buy these folding bicycles that we will take with us. And on the boat ride, you get a message from the captain of the boat, and they say, we threw out those bicycles because you're stupid. because nobody's gonna take bicycles up the Klondike Trail where there is pretty much rocks and mud. So it's an interesting the different people that you can start with may give you more money or less money, but may also give you horrible ideas or good ideas.
There's also a cameo in Oregon in Yukon Trail, similar to Amazon Trail. You get to meet Jack London, who wrote Call of the Wild.
Yes. Yep.
So, MECC like to put in people who were relevant to that time period.
I think an interesting fact about the Yukon Trail, and it's something that I actually learned while going to the city of Seattle, was that, do you know the people who made the most money? Zach, do you know the answer? Do you know who made the most money during the gold rush?
Was it people selling the tickets to go on boats to Alaska?
Yeah, the city of Seattle.
Yeah.
Sold all the supplies for people to buy before they could go to Yukon to find gold. And a lot of money a lot of Seattle was built up because of the money that they made in the Yukon gold rush, the Yukon Trail period of time, the gold rush up to Alaska, and. So there is a very it was a very fun game. I think it's I feel easier than Oregon Trail.
Yeah, like you don't die in Yukon Trail.
No.
You can't die of dysentery or get it mauled by a bear or bitten by a
Nope.
rattlesnake.
Nope. You can break your leg and then get it healed multiple times.
Which on the Oregon Trail, if you broke your leg, then like you or your family would die during the process of you healing it. So
I'm just reading some of the interesting encounters that you would encounter through the Yukon Trail, and one of the encounter was when you pass from Alaska and when you pass into the Canadian-U.S. border. To get into the Yukon territory, you encounter Canadian Mounties, and you're required to pay a tax to bring stuff into Canada. And after the price of the tax is given, if you don't have enough money, the Mounties will just take whatever money you have.
Oh.
And you're not allowed to pass unless you have 1,000 pounds of food per person.
Oh.
So you essentially need to, and I think that's right outside of a town. So I think you have to do like things to raise money, like gambling, and to try to get enough money to get through to the border. That may be a game that I may go back and play and have a fresh take on it in our opening segment, in a future segment.
Yeah, I think that and replaying Oregon Trail would be worthwhile, just to kind of get a new take on, I remember thinking Oregon Trail 2 was hard as a kid, but who knows what it's like going into it. I haven't played
like
it.
I said, banker strategy.
Banker strategy, exactly. Along the lines of Oregon Trail, there's also a game called Organ Trail, spelled Organ, which is a parody, a satire of the MECC style games. It wasn't made by MECC. It was made by the developer of The Men Who Wear Many Hats. That is their name. And it was released in 2010 originally, and then it was ported over to Windows and such in 2012. But it's kind of along the same lines. It uses graphics of kind of the older Oregon Trail games. So from the one that was available for DOS and Apple II computers, very, very simple graphical interface. And instead of taking the Oregon Trail, you are a cop from Kentucky who is traveling across the country to escape zombies. So, and you do it with
sounds fun.
Yes, and you do it in your station wagon as opposed to a covered wagon. And you can hunt in the game, but it's hunting zombies. It's not hunting elk or food. I remember one item in the game is that if like one of your party members is getting sick or gets bitten, there is an option to put them down, which is they give you the little animation of your stick figure character shooting the other character. So it's definitely tongue in cheek in that style of Oregon Trail.
Do you know what do you know where where the goal is?
That's what I was double checking, but I don't remember offhand, unfortunately.
Yeah. I thought it was south or something. I thought you were trying to get to like
yeah, or... I think you're trying to go south.
Yeah. Like Florida maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. Along also the lines of Oregon Trail, it's not a game, but I personally recommend, it's a musical. You can find the entirety of it on YouTube, called The Trail to Oregon. It was written and produced by Star Kid Productions, who did the Harry Potter musical trilogy. They also did Annie, A-N-I, which was about Anakin Skywalker. And The Trail to Oregon is a very fun musical based on the Oregon Trail video game, about a family who goes off to the Oregon. They pretty much all, spoiler alert, a bunch of them die. But they do something fun in the beginning of the musical where the audience picks the names for the characters, and they refer to those characters by the names that the audience picks throughout the rest of the entire musical. So anyone watching the musical, the YouTube version would have been different than the version that you might have seen at a different location. So I think that's kind of a neat little kind of loving tribute to the franchise.
What was that YouTube again?
Yes. So it's a YouTube video, and it's called The Trail to Oregon.
The Trail to Oregon.
Yep, and it's by Star Kid Productions.
Star Kid Productions. So that you guys can look that up. And some other games that MECC put together, back to MECC now. One other game that we had was Maya Quest, and there was also an Africa Trail.
Right.
Both of these games took place on a bicycle, and you played as a cyclist pedaling across the various locales. Similar, I believe, to Amazon Trail, where you stopped at different historical points of origin and try to solve problems. But you were definitely I remember the packaging for Maya Quest. Your character was like a bicyclist with like a yellow jersey and helmet.
Yeah, I just pulled up the photo of it now, and it's a guy. Yeah. It's like a guy wearing short shorts and a yellow jacket with a blue helmet and purple gloves, riding a bicycle in front of one of the Mayan pyramids.
Yeah. What's the context of the game? Do you have that?
So the plot is, this plot's very strange. The official Wikipedia plot is, for many years, the Earth has been protected from incoming meteors by a space network. An incoming meteor in a satellite's path causes a shuttlecraft to be accidentally shot down to the Mexican jungles on Earth, with only part of the new laser firing codes transmitted to the meteor defense network. The player is sent to cycle through the jungles to find and recover the code pieces with a limited time before a meteor shower impact.
Oh, okay. So no time, but a very kind of outlandish plot to teach you the history of the struggle of when the cyclists needed to get the code words to stop the meteor from striking Earth back in 1984.
Yes, exactly. Meanwhile, Africa Trail is, according to the Wikipedia page again, doesn't seem to have as complicated of a plot. It seems to be just about you traveling around Africa on a bike trail. So I guess they wanted to ditch the whole end of the world scenario.
Well, Maya, the Maya symbology for like the Mayan calendar and all the end of the world type situation.
Yeah, true.
So that's probably where MECC was trying to wrap their head around and try to get to that point. But I feel like maybe that game as well. If I can get that game to work, some of these games I feel like are just fun to get back into, try to kind of understand the
Yeah.
games that we were encountered with in our childhood.
Yeah.
I don't even know how Maya Quest got into our house. I think because our dad was a cyclist or is a cyclist that
Yeah.
he saw the cyclist and thought it would be a great game to give his kids, and that's probably where that thought went.
It also
And,
has the big word social studies written across the top of it, so he
oh,
probably knew it was educational as well. So
educational cyclists, you can't beat that, says
that's
our dad.
right. That's right. I don't even remember us playing Maya Quest. I just knew we had it.
I did.
You
I
did?
definitely
Okay.
did. I definitely did play it, and it was interesting. I think I would choose the Amazon Trail too over Maya Quest. I think there was more interesting stuff going on. But hey, send us an email if you think that Maya Quest is great, or that you liked one of the other trail games that we didn't talk about, or if you think that there's a game that is kind of like a trail like type of genre of type of game, and simulation educational strategy types game that we missed, and that you want us to look at, and we'll even play a game. If you recommend us a game, I'll make a promise to you that I will definitely try and at least play the game a little bit, to try to get an understanding of where you're coming from. So feel free to give us a recommendation, write to us, we'll talk about it on the show. So with that, I think that gets us into our Byway Pass segment.
Yes. So I believe you went first last time.
I think I did.
I should have remembered, but So I think the game that I'm interested in playing coming up is The Last of Us Part 2. I was a very big fan of the original Last of Us game. I didn't get to play it until it was remastered for PlayStation 4. But even then, I just love it. I think it's a very interesting style kind of action adventure game it's hard to describe because it's not open world. It's not like, it's not really a like exploring game. It's pretty much a straight, linear storyline, but you have these characters who are very much integral to the storyline, and you kind of learn to really like and want to learn more about these characters.
Like action adventure, kind of Uncharted type of game.
Yeah, it does have a lot of gameplay, and it's very stealth. So at least in the original Last of Us, the plot is it is a world apocalyptic setting. And you're traveling from Boston to Minneapolis, I think. You're traveling somewhere else, and you have to fend off from other survivors creatures, who are these like fungus zombies. And The Last of Us Part 2 is looking to follow up on that story. It looks very good. It takes place a few years into the future from the first game. I think they're aging it appropriately, so I think it's taking place as far apart as the games are being released. And that's coming out in the next few months. I think it's coming out in early 2020, so that will probably be a buy for me.
Nice.
Yeah, I am definitely looking forward to it, and I really want to kind of get my hands on it.
I actually I have The Last of Us for the PlayStation 3.
Oh yes, yeah.
Where it was originally released. It was actually when I went to go buy my PS3, I had to have 5 games that I wanted that were PS3 exclusives.
Oh.
And The Last of Us and Heavy Rain were 2 of those games that I made my decision to. There was a couple of other games that were all PS3 exclusives that made me decide to buy the actual PS3. And I was very excited to play Last of Us. I have not actually, to be honest, beaten it. I have to. It's on my to-do list. I have a very large to-do list of games, but The Last of Us is definitely on that list somewhere. And I'm looking to maybe when they release the second part, and maybe they'll bring it to PC or something, and I can play. I'll try to beat them. and I think I would enjoy it. I sat down and played it. I do also have a new TV that I can try it on, which maybe it'll look awesome.
Yeah, it'll probably look great
on. So my game that I want to talk about is Desperados 3 or III.
Yes.
Desperados III 3 is the tactical stealth game that's set in the Wild Wild West. Not to be confused with the movie Wild Wild West. And is a sequel prequel to the game Desperados Wanted Dead or Alive. Yes, so it is a prequel, but it is also the third, so thus it is a sequel prequel. And the game plays very much similar to Shadow Tactics, and which is a ninja tactical stealth game, and is developed by the same company. Cool. The company is called Mimi, Mimi Games, and it's a tactical planning game where you kind of can plan your moves and execute them in real time. You'll generally have up to 5 different people who have different abilities. And you can incorporate their abilities together so that they kind of like sync their powers together. So an example in Shadow Tactics, there is like a ninja type character, and then there's like a samurai type character. And you can have the samurai character distract guards and have the ninja like come up and sneak behind them and stab them. And they're able to do different things. Like the ninja character is better at hiding and can climb on buildings. The samurai character is kind of good at taking down multiple enemies. He also can like drop his liquor and make people enticed by his liquor, pull them away, so he can like pull people out. And as the levels get more difficult, you get more people, and you get eventually different skills, and together, using all their skills combined, you can kind of beat the game. Very exciting. It kind of scratches an itch of mine that I get occasionally to play these type of games. The original Desperados, a game called Commandos, is very similar. Remember Commandos? So there's Commandos, Desperados, and also Shadow Tactics, both kind of different time periods and different type of technology, but overall very similar gameplay aspects. So I also like the Wild West type and the type of feel. I will put this down. I'm kind of like Star Wars, so I think I have a stronger need to buy this game, and it does not. It's coming out sometime in 2019 and it has a price. If this game comes out and it's $30, I'll probably buy it. And yeah, I have a stronger need to buy this game, so I'm gonna put myself in a buy wait. I'm gonna be honest. I may wait for it to be on sale.
Yeah, fair enough. So yeah, we have a couple of ways that you can reach us. First off, we have a Gmail account, which is classicgamingbrothers@gmail.com. Send us any emails if you think I'm talking too loud, if you think Seth is talking too loud, if you don't like what you're hearing, which I don't know why you're listening to this far ahead, or why you're on the second episode of this podcast if you don't like what you're hearing. But if any of those are the case, send us an email. You can also check us out on Twitter at CG Brothers Pod. That's CG Brothers POD Pod.
Yeah, we have a Facebook group. We'll put show announcements on them. We will generally keep people abreast of what's going on with the pod. We are looking. This is episode 2, so we are probably in our regular scheduled drop. So you can look forward to hearing us in the next scheduled drop of the show.
Perfect. Well, always remember, don't play games like my brother.
And don't play games like my brother. I've been Seth.
And I've been Zach.
And we've been the Classic Gaming Brothers.
See ya.